So I just want to make this quick video talking about the importance of having a positive experience in your first powerlifting competition, or even in your first few powerlifting competitions. So I just got this idea recently when someone contacted me just to give you some context. This person contacted me. They've been training for a while. And they want to compete in a competition, and it was only 6 weeks away. So with this particular person, because I've seen their training before, I know they're not that bad. The technique is okay, but there can be some improvements. Their strength is pretty good. So 6 weeks isn't a whole lot. It's a very short time to prep for a comp. In particular, someone which I've never worked with before. Like, it takes a while for me to work that person out, work out what training they respond to, how much volume they can handle, and then there's the whole fixing of technique as well. Even if it's just kind of small things which need some modification, they can take quite a while to fix. So I gave them the option, saying, you can prep in 6 weeks, and well, I can give you some structure in that 6 weeks, and we can do the best job that we can in that small amount of time, just so you've got a little bit of structure, can go within something to follow leading up to the comp. Can't expect that you're gonna do any PBs or anything. As I said, it's only a short while. Then I gave them the other option, saying, what about we skip this comp and work for something later in the year. Take our time to work towards a comp, so we can mainly was the thing for fixing technique, which we'll go over in a sec. But the whole purpose that I wanted to delay this comp later on, it wasn't because I thought they weren't good enough or weren't strong enough. I think they're going to do fine in the competition setting, because, as I said, their strength isn't too bad. It was more that it's their first time doing comp. I want that person to get a positive experience from that first comp. And what I mean by positive experience is, one, not missing too many lifts, especially like those first or second attempts. I don't want the person to miss many lifts. So in a competition, if you're not aware, you get 3 attempts at your squat, bench press, and deadlift. If you miss all 3 attempts on one of the lifts, so they call it that you have bombed the meet. So you won't get a total, you won't get a placing. Essentially, you've been disqualified. You can still do your other lifts if you want, but as I said, you're not going to get a placing or anything. And like just missing lifts, it's a bit of it's a negative experience. Like, it's not a nice feeling when you miss lifts, especially if you think from a beginner, a first time going into the comp. I mean, they're all excited. They've been prepping for many weeks, even months. They've been looking forward to this day. They may even have friends there, family there. They want to get some good videos that they can chuck on social media and show their friends. But if they get there and then they miss all their lifts, the emotion that goes with that isn't going to be very great, and that they're not going to get a negative experience from that comp, or most likely not going to have a good time. And why that's important, so like, if you do a task and you get some sort of positive reward from doing a particular task, you are more likely to repeat that task. And then opposite to that, if you do a task and some negative consequence happens, just like my little cat in the back, if he done something bad and then I spray him with water, then he associates that bad thing he did, or that task, with that negative consequence, then he's less likely to do that task again, right? And I feel it's a little bit the same um, especially for first time beginners, that if they do this powerlifting comp, that being their task, then they miss their lift, then they get these negative emotions, and then they associate this negative emotions with this powerlifting comp. They may never do a powerlifting comp again just because of that one bad experience they had. And then that might even carry over to their training, that they might not do like those heavy movement, or those not even heavy, those compound movements, deadlift, squat, bench press, which are great for, or the squat and bench press are great for physique, muscle hypertrophy purposes. But then it might even carry over to other aspects of their life. Like, okay, I worked really hard for many months, then did this event and I failed it. If you think, like, most things that are like kind of that you get a large reward in life, it takes a long time. Like, if you're going to do a uni degree and that takes 3 or 4 years, it takes a long time. So those tasks take a long time and you get that big award. You can kind of, like, powerlifting can carry over to other aspects of life. So those things where you do commit a lot of time, where it's you don't have any kind of instant reward of doing anything. You just work day in, day out for many months for like an end goal. Well, if you do that in your powerlifting comp and you fail that, then those things in your life that are similar to that, as I said, working for a long time for a goal, that might make you less likely to do those type of things as well. So it might sound silly, but yeah, having that negative experience from a competition can carry over into other aspects of your life. And as I touched on that, I think it's a little bit more important for beginners, maybe less likely important for experienced lifters who have done multiple comps. Because if they were to have a bad comp and kind of have like a negative experience from that comp, they're more likely to kind of just use that as information to how they could better improve to do another comp. So experienced lifter is less likely to quit from that bad experience. Whereas a beginner, depending on their personality as well, they may be more likely to quit from having that bad experience from that comp. So, and just like a couple of practical things that you can take from this, like, so okay, what can you do to, you know, optimize your chances of having this positive experience from your first comp, or maybe your first, you know, few comps? Probably one of the most important things is, like, take your time in doing the comp. I know it can get exciting. Like, you might make people who have decided to do a competition. Typically, they've been training for a while. Might be a few months, even a couple of years. They've gotten a little bit stronger. They've reached some smaller goals. Maybe lost some body fat, hit some PRs on lifts. They've got some goals, they've been getting some training momentum, and then they get this decision like, you know what, I want to commit and do a powerlifting comp. And I think sometimes in life, when you make those firm decisions and you've got like that goal, that new goal to work towards, it gets really exciting. Like, you want it to happen fast. It's new, it's exciting. And with that, you can kind of decide you want to do a powerlifting comp, you kind of pick this comp, you've got this specific day, one popped up, and you're like, you know what, that'd be a perfect timing for me to do a comp. Let's aim for that comp. And let's say you are prepping for that comp and things are just not going right. Maybe you get sick halfway through. Maybe you get a little bit of injuries. Things happen that, and you just don't feel you're going to be 100% ready to compete in that competition. If you feel like that, you don't necessarily have to do that comp. You haven't failed if you pull out of that comp. Doesn't mean that you're quitting. You're just going to do a comp in a later date that you feel you were totally prepared for that day. So don't feel bad of having to push forward for a comp. And also don't rush your training. You can't rush adaptations. Adaptations happen when they happen. We can optimize adaptations by getting enough sleep, recovery, not doing too much training volume, and so forth. But adaptations are going to happen when they are ready. So when you feel you are ready to do a comp, then do the comp. Don't feel that you have to rush it. And probably like a really important thing, this is even for experienced lifters, get your technique right before competing. I see that when you miss a lift in a comp, so obviously there's a fact of not being strong enough to make the lift, which happens. But I find in a lot of the time, especially with beginners, they miss lifts because their technique is not efficient. They may be strong enough to get whatever weight up in a squat. They might be strong enough to move that load up and down, but because they make a technical error or they might have inefficient technique, that causes them to miss that lift. So if you're like doing your 1 rep max, or even 102% of your 1 rep max, so you're going for a PR. Technique efficiencies are going to increase the difficulty of that greatly, in particular when the load is really heavy. Those technical mistakes kind of get amplified. For example, if you're doing a squat and you fall forward, the bar falls forward and the bar goes out of your base of support, well then that's going to take a lot more energy to bring that bar back over your base of support. And if you can't fight that, then you're gonna miss the lift and dump the bar forward. So getting your technique efficient so you can minimize errors and just also be efficient in the movement, that's going to be very important. And just the last thing of that, another reason that you want to be efficient, if you think that when you're doing a comp, there's added pressures in the comp day. You've got crowd watching you, you're versing other people, you're on kind of like a timer to get your lift done. You might have friends or family watching you. You've got this added pressure that you're going to probably put on yourself because you've been working for like 12, 14, 16 weeks or however long just for this particular day. So you've got all these added mental pressures, and you can easily make a technical error when the pressure is high. However, if you're efficient in a movement and you've practiced it many times and your kind of room for error is a lot smaller, or your frequency of error is smaller, then you'll likely be able to maintain good technique and minimize errors in basically any type of training environment. So that's another thing why it's really important to get your nail in your technique. So to be efficient and to not let other pressures affect your movement pattern or minimally affect your movement pattern. So that was it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully this was helpful. And I'll probably make something else in the near future when I think of something else. See ya.